Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us today as we bring another Canadian warrior to display here at Peterson Air Force Base. I've got to tell you that I don't give a jet away every single day, so this is very unique for me, and I'm especially grateful for the U.S. Air Force fly pass there that we just heard a few minutes ago. The CF-18 Hornet, in Canada we put the C in front of the designation of our aircraft, so this is why we call it the CF-18 Hornet. It has been Canada's frontline fighter for over 30 years, with the first of these jets arriving in Canada in 1982. During this time, the Hornet has filled a wide range of roles in the defense of Canada and North America. So in 1991, 26 CF-18 left CFB, Canadian Forces Base, Bad Solingen in Germany for Doha, Qatar, to fight in the First Gulf War. The Hornets deployed during this conflict flew sweep and escort missions as well as bombing sorties, the first time since the Korean War that the Canadian Armed Forces had participated in offensive combat operations. Continuing violence in the Balkans brought the Hornet into combat again in the late 90s in both air-to-air and air-to-ground roles. In 2011, CF-18 saw action again, this time enforcing a United Nations sanctioned Libyan no-fly zone. During this NATO campaign, Canadian Hornets conducted 946 combat missions. And recently, Canadian Hornets were deployed to Iraq from October 2014 until February of this year as part of the Canadian Operation Impact. There, they executed 1,378 sorties, conducting 251 airstrikes on ISIL positions in Iraq and Syria. Of course, throughout all those years, the CF-18 also supported NORAD across the vast Canadian North, working closely at times with the Alaska region and internally in Operation Noble Eagle. This aircraft has its own story to tell. Tail number 723 was taken on strength in 1984 when it arrived in Cold Lake on 15th of May. For its first few years, it remained in North America, flying over Canada and the United States. In 1991, the aircraft was assigned to 439 Tactical Fighter Squadron in Germany in support of Canada's NATO's mission. And after returning to Cold Lake, the aircraft was chosen in 1994 to display a special paint scheme commemorating the 70th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. I have personally flown this tail number, so has Lieutenant Colonel Bernard and Lieutenant Colonel French and Major Miller, who are also Canadian F-18 pilots serving here with me at NORAD. When you see an aircraft that you have flown become a music piece, I think it tells you something. But being older, I don't think I have as many problems to rationalize that as a younger officer was listening. So if you have any advice there, I'm all there to help out. But at this time, I'd like to point out the exceptional artwork on the tail of this jet, and perhaps after the ceremony, it would be worthwhile for you to just take a look at the paint schemes. This design was conceived by Mr. Jim Beliveau, who has been the graphic artist designer 410 Tactical Fighter Squadron at 4-wing Cold Lake since 1983, so it's been there almost as long as the CF-18. And the paint scheme highlights the CF-18 service to the North American Airspace Defense Command. To me, the Hornet is an old friend. I started flying this fighter in 1988, back when they still had a bit of that new car smell to them. And I spent over 2,700 hours flying the Hornet during some of the best years of my life. And while it makes me sad to see such a fine aircraft retired, this museum is an appropriate place for it to rest. Here it is surrounded by fellow warriors that have served to protect us all. In this place, generations to come can view this aircraft and learn about its role in the defense of North America. Here, this aircraft will live on as a symbol of our combined prosperity and a monument to the continued cooperation that we experience between Canada and the United States. And as such, I am very pleased to dedicate CF-188723 to the care of the Peterson Air Force Base Museum.